Should I be talking now? There we go. Thank you so much. I'm eager to get started. My name is Kerry Holzman. We are live. It's running a little late tonight, about 11 minutes later than I intended to start. Thank you guys for being patient as I was getting set up for this video. It is Saturday, December 10th, 2022. I'm Kerry Holzman, and today, a rare weekend broadcast for me. I'm trying to catch up with a lot of my backlog here. And today, I want to review these keyboards I bought in October of 21 that I've been meaning to do reviews on. One of these keyboards isn't even available for sale anymore, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. These are some of the weirdest keyboards I found on Amazon, and I wanted to showcase them today and just show you what's out there. Maybe a neat idea for a gift or even a gift for yourself. These are each over $100. They're special, different, and not your ordinary everyday keyboard. So whether or not you see that as a benefit, you know, that's up to you. They are both Bluetooth, wired USB, so you can run them to an Apple product, a tablet, or a smartphone. You can also plug it directly into your computer via USB. So they do have built-in rechargeable batteries that are not replaceable in these keyboards. And yeah, these are very different, very unique retro style keyboards. They're typewriter inspired. That's what they all have in common. And yeah, hopefully this will be some different content than what you're accustomed to seeing here as I continue to mix up the variety of what I'm offering here. And people who caught the earlier members only broadcast who have returned, thank you guys for coming back for this review. So there are links to all of these keyboards as usual in the video notes below this video. And I'm going to start out right now with the middle keyboard here. This box may look a little wet. I had to wipe down the box. It was filled with dust. This is from a company called Rymek. A lot of these companies that I've never heard of before, they kind of come and go on Amazon. This is the one that's not available anymore, but there's keyboards that look exactly the same with a different manufacturer name. So I think that it's one of those products, you know, that several manufacturers put their name on, and none of them actually make it. So I'm going to start with this unboxing. Let's move these over here. Here we go. Just going to get right to it today. In the box, we have a couple of pieces here that we need to attach onto the keyboard. This is our USB cable, and here is the keyboard, as well as instruction manual. Again, typewriter inspired. You can run them off a wired USB like an ordinary keyboard, or Bluetooth to a Bluetooth enabled laptop or Bluetooth enabled desktop, Apple, or smartphone or tablet. We've got the little carriage return piece that sits down like that. We have a dial. Typically this controls volume up and down for your computer sound. We have this piece. It's a little bracket that goes on right like so. And the idea behind this is that you can take your tablet or your phone and place it like so. When you paired it with Bluetooth, then I can write a novel. Of course, I don't have any mouse control, but not that there's a mouse on a smartphone, but I still have to touch the smartphone to bring up my applications and whatnot. And then this would be a lot easier to type a paper on, let's say, a school paper or an article I might be writing, using a full-size keyboard versus trying to tap each letter on a keyboard on a smartphone. So this is not RGB. I think it's blue only, and it has different sequences and patterns. We're going to give this a shot. I'm going to hook it up to, you know what, we'll hook it up to, I don't need to hook it up, you know? You know what, I don't need to hook it up. I should be able to just turn it on. So in this case, this button right here is the power button. If we turn this on, You'll see the keyboard lights up. And then I can pair it via Bluetooth. I can adjust the color pattern or brightness of the blue LEDs that's on this. As far as I know, it just stays blue. There's no other color option. The other two keyboards, you can adjust the colors. There's a function key on the keyboard, and usually the up and down arrow keys are your brightness for how bright you want the RGB to be. That's typical in RGB keyboards. It's very tactile. Yeah, you can put a tablet. We don't need to use the tablet. You can put a tablet here or smartphone. There's just a little shelf. This keyboard, I think, was around $150. They're not cheap. If you're old school like me and you like to call back to the old typewriter days, I'm going to bring this up a little closer to the camera so you can see the details on it. This would be where your strikers are here, and you can adjust the LEDs so that when you push a key, these individually light up as though it was a striker going up and hitting the paper. This would be your carriage return. I'm not sure that I think enables and disables the Bluetooth. I'd have to read the instructions. Of course, there's no 10 key because typewriters didn't have 10 key. And on the back, you've got two USB ports there. I suppose you can use either one of those. This piece is optional. If you wanted to use this on your desktop PC, you could just take this off and use it as a regular keyboard. But where it shines is being able to better use your smartphone or tablet with a full-size keyboard if you're somebody trying to do content creation. That's really all there is to this. There's not a whole lot to say about it. And of course, you can turn these lights off entirely on all these keyboards. And you can change on this keyboard which color pattern, not which color, but which pattern it lights up in. So if I go, let's see, it's option. I would have to put this down to do this, but if we look in this section here, on the arrow keys, you'll see they have a second function. Up and down is brightness up and brightness down. Left or right is how fast the lights are moving, make them faster or slower. The top right button is a power button. You hold that button down to shut the unit off because it is battery operated if you're not plugged in with USB. It's kind of heavy, not super heavy, but it's got some substance to it. So for those of you who miss the old typewriter keyboards, that's just a callback. These are all retro keyboards. So let me clear this out of the way, and I want to move to the next one. Again, I got a lot to get through, and I don't want to spend too much time on them. At the end of the day, they're a keyboard, and they are Bluetooth. That much they all have in common. This one's made by a company called Know, K-N-O-W, and it is a mechanical keyboard. I've got a link to it in the video notes below. Even though this is no longer made available, you can read more details about it on the Amazon page, which is still in existence. I noticed there's just a few contributions coming in, so a quick shout out before I get to the next keyboard. To our generous contributors, Bob R. with a $10 super chat. He says, "This is my overdue dues for doing what you do." Thanks, Bob. Larry Wood with a $20 super chat contribution. Right on. Thank you, Larry. And XRod666 contributes $2. He says, "Hey, Carrie, it's been a while since I've seen you." Yeah, about 40 minutes. Good to see you again, XRod. Thanks for hanging out. All right, let's get to the next one. This one's made by a company called, what's it called? 7 Keys. 7, the number 7, and the word keys. It's the TW1867. It's going to be very similar to this keyboard here in that it's designed to hold a phone or tablet. It can be used via USB or Bluetooth. You got a small owner's manual. There's like a little thank you card for buying the product. We have a couple of extra mechanical keys here to replace if any break, not keycaps. These are the actual switches with a key puller, a switch puller. We've got an extra long USB cable. This USB cable on this one is too short. These do regular type A to micro USB, and this is a nice braided cable the way it should be. Oddly, this one I think was the middle price, and I think it was better value than this one. And it's got a much more refined look to it, which I'm going to bring up to the camera so you can see close up. We have what looks like a wood grain style background with typewriter style keys. Once again, this can control volume up and down, I think. Does that push in? No, it doesn't push in. What these carriage returns do, I'm not sure. I think you can program them. We have an on and off switch on the back to save the batteries when you're not using it. We have the Bluetooth pairing button back here, and our USB connection, if we want to wire it to a computer, is there. There's no way to tilt these up like some keyboards have little feet. These don't do that. And this has a built-in slot to hold a larger, heavier tablet or a bigger phone. If we turn this on, let me flip the switch to on. There we go. This is also RGB. We can control the light pattern, the brightness, and I believe the color. Once again, there's no 10 key here. Very old school typewriter style keyboard. Let's see, what do I hit? Function, up and down, controls bright. I'm guessing which key changes the color or the pattern. It's one of these. I'll find it. I could read the owner's manual, but heaven forbid, I'd have to stop. We've got some LED notifications right up here at the top. Things like caps lock. Should inform us with a light if we're on caps lock. It's got a nice solid feel. I want to say this can change color, but I can't. I don't see which key it is. Maybe it's, you can pair it with up to 3 Bluetooth devices, and you can just select function and then Z, X, or C to which Bluetooth device you want it to use it with at that moment, so it can stay paired to up to 3 devices that it will remember. Is this not RGB? I'm not exactly sure. Neither one of these are particularly my favorite. You'll see this one is quite a bit larger. This one is larger. They're very similar in style. This one's still available for sale at Amazon, and they do offer them in different color patterns. I think there's 4 different color patterns. I like the classic wood grain style. It harkens back to, you know, when they used to build things with quality parts. Not saying this isn't. However, it's just a throwback retro style keyboard. It's not going to be the most efficient keyboard to type on, not for me anyway. And again, really beneficial if you want to use your smartphone or your tablet to do a lot of writing on it instead of having to haul a laptop around with you. So that's those 2, and now I'm going to get to my third one. Now the third one, personally, I like this one the best. If there was one I think I would keep and actually use, it's this third one. So let me put all this back. Again, we have the USB cable, we have the extra keys, and for some reason there's a tote bag. I'm not sure why. So let's close this box. Let's get it out of our way. And now we're going to get to the headliner. This is a company called Azio, and Azio is well known for making expensive artisan keyboards. You may not have heard of them, but if you go to Amazon and search Azio, see the reviews and see the prices, you'll say, wow, I didn't realize this was even a market. Yeah, there's a market for these. This is the heaviest keyboard of the bunch. This thing must weigh 12 pounds. when you open the box, it is a very nice unboxing experience. Turn this around this way. So when we open this, let's move this over here, move that over here. We lift that up, lift this up. We have a little card here. We have instructions and a little folder here. And we have this plastic tray covering and protecting the keys. And it is wrapped, of course, in some protection so the keyboard doesn't get scratched up or damaged in shipping. And let me bring it up to the camera so you can see this beauty. It is copper and leather. Copper on leather. These are your LEDs that tell you your num lock is on or your caps lock, etc. Those light up. Let me bring it closer. And we'll just move it very slowly from one side to the other. Look at even the feet on it. Some serious feet on this bad boy. On the back here, we've got our USB cable, a Mac or PC switch, and then Bluetooth or USB switch over here, or turn the keyboard off entirely. So where's that switch? Let's turn this on. Let's move it to Bluetooth. There we go. And now on this one, the keys themselves light up. Not sure how well you're going to see that with the studio lights, but instead of a backlight, each of these keys, maybe if I step further back, the LED is behind the letter. If I cut these lights, let me bring it up close again with the lights out. There we go. Now we can see it. Mortant said that's a nice keyboard, $229. Yeah, it's rose gold, like a copper look. They do make it, I think, in 4 different color schemes. It's a pleasure to type on it. It's solid. It's a heavy plank. It's not really designed for gaming. It's kind of elegant, would be the best way I would describe it. Once again, there's no tilt to it, I don't think. Maybe these do tilt. These are, I've had these, but I haven't really spent any time using them. But this foot rotates. Does it rotate so it can extend? Because the front ones don't. Well, it looks like you just kind of unscrew it and it'll raise it a little bit. So we can get a slight tilt on that bad boy. And of course, to type on it, it's a little quieter because it's built more solidly. Once again, it's got a rechargeable battery in it, so you can use it Bluetooth. It does not have the little rack to hold a tablet or a smartphone. It's really intended to be a desktop keyboard for your PC or your Mac. But you can use it without a wire. So in other words, you can run it through Bluetooth if you want to, and then you just have to keep recharging the battery, which you're going to have to do through the USB port. So I would just plug it in with a USB cable, which has got to be in the box as well. Let's see what else is in the box that we've missed. A large braided, nice USB cable. And a whole bunch of extra keycaps for some reason, I don't know why. And I think that about covers it. That's what you get for your money. I'll bring these keycaps up close so you can see. We have a bag full of keycaps. I don't know how they choose which keycaps they're giving you. I don't know if you can change out the letter on them. I imagine you can. Some of the keys are different shapes. We have round keys for the letters, oblong keys for the function buttons, very long shift key, a shorter shift key here. There's a bunch of different sizes and ovals, so maybe that's why there's so many, but I see the round ones and I see the oval ones, but I don't see the, like a shift or return or the plus, or there's an additional enter with your 10 key here. I don't see those bigger keycaps as spares, but not exactly sure why there are so many spares. That one, that's my favorite. Now, I believe only this one is RGB. I believe this color always stays the same, but I do think there are patterns. There's brightness for the key lights. I'd have to look at the directions, but for the most part, you know, RGB is not important to me when it comes to a keyboard. What I care about is I don't want a keyboard that's too light or hollow feeling. It's just like a car, you know. I don't want a car door that goes clink when I close it. I want a car door that goes clunk, you know. I want a heavy, feel like I'm protected and that the car is built in with quality. So this keyboard, it's quite heavy. You will feel the quality of it. You know that when you're looking at a $220 keyboard, you're not getting some hollow piece of plastic, which is what this feels like. This feels a little bit more sturdy than that one. And this one is the most solid of all of them. I've been meaning to make this video for a year now. And as a result, this keyboard is no longer offered on Amazon. But if we search for it, there's keyboards that look exactly the same, just with a different manufacturer name. I'm sure it's the same keyboard. And if you want to treat yourself to something nice and you like that retro typewriter look, again, these are not for gaming. Or if you can see getting rid of your computer and just using your tablet or smartphone, if only you had a keyboard, there it is. Most home users are just consumers. They're not creators. So if the thing is that when you're replying to emails and such, you hate to do it on a phone because of the interface, this solves that problem. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound contribution says, I wasn't able to get on the members only chat earlier, Carrie, and I couldn't comment. Yeah, so that was for supporters of the channel, the people that pay $9.99 a month. We're trying to make special videos just for those folks so we get away from the larger crowd where people, you know, have to kind of compete for getting my attention, to a video where there's only like 15 people watching, and that way all 15 people, or it's just a smaller amount, can easily talk to me without having to worry about the chat moving so fast I never see their comment. So there is a benefit if you want to support the channel. It also helps me to pay for items like these keyboards. There's $600 worth of keyboards here, nearly $600 that I spent. And not because I needed them, I just thought they were unique, and I wanted to present to you what options are out there that you may not have realized. And Planet Cryos with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Planet Cryos. And thank you, Mark Gaines. And was there one earlier that I missed? XRod666, yeah, I mentioned that, the $2. Thank you, XRod666. And of course, again, to Larry Wood and Bob R. Are there questions I can address about these keyboards? I don't know them very well, but I can do my best to provide an answer for you. This one, which one? One of these, David Ice says, is $171. On average, these range between $150 to $200 for a typewriter style RGB Bluetooth wireless keyboard. That's pretty normal in this market segment. And they're all mechanical keys. Every one of these is mechanical if you like that feel. David says the one I have right here. Well, the links, again, the links for all of these are in the video notes. I generally don't want to be too specific with the prices because you might be watching this video in 2028 They may not even be available anymore, or the prices may have gone up or gone down. These videos stay up. You could be watching this video in 2035 for all I know. Who knows what inflation's doing? $200 10 years ago was a lot more than $200 today. At least that's my perception because of inflation, the value of the dollar. I mean, I used to be able to eat at McDonald's for $6. Now it's $12 for just me. So I'm not eating any more. I'm not eating any less. It's just the price of things is going up and the value of the dollar is dropping. And since these videos stay up in perpetuity, I don't want to confuse people. Do pay attention to the date videos are made by anybody, because you might be watching content that's a decade or two old. So on the bottom of this keyboard, there are some instructions. I'll bring this up to the screen. It's just brought to my attention. Thank you. Let's see what these instructions say here. Function R is a switch between wired mode and Bluetooth mode. Bluetooth pairing can be performed in Bluetooth mode. It just tells you how to pair it. Made in China, what a shock. Again, you see the blinking LED, which is, there's 4 LEDs there. And I'm sure there's a way to control the color, the lighting pattern. I just can't remember what it is. I know this one for sure will do it. I just have to put my glasses on. And it's function, is it function or is it alt? Alt option. I'll find it. Just randomly hitting keys until I... Usually there's an indication on the keypad itself for the secondary function of buttons that have a secondary function. And I'm impatient because I'm live and I'm just trying to quickly guess it. It's on here somewhere. So it's the function FN button, that's what's controlling it. Okay, I found it. So function and delete will cycle through the lighting patterns. That's responding to me typing. That's apparently turning it off all the, oh no, now it's lighting each key I press along with the striker up above. Function delete. I'm just cycling through it. And then it was back off again. Actually, I don't think that's off. I think that's just, when it's like that, it's going to respond. Let me bring it up close so you can see. I'm sure that's not good for the battery life, but you can turn it off altogether as well. On this keyboard over here, let's see if I can figure this one out. Function. So the Bluetooth 1, 2, and 3 is X, Z, X, and C. The R is between wired and wireless mode. So this one's function in the home key. So function and home. And we can cycle through our color patterns. Some of these respond to how you type. That's just apparently static. Well, it says a lot of different modes, more than I expected. So this one, when I touch a key, it ripples like water. When you type like I do, I don't have time to be looking at this. I don't think I've cycled all the way through them all. Is that off? No, that's more of the ripple. What is it? Function and home. Now we're back to the first one that we started with. Pretty weird. And this one, I don't know if we have any, let's see, function home, function delete. I'm looking for something that's going to control these light patterns. I got a Bluetooth button over here that's blinking on and off. I see brightness. I see media playback buttons. Yeah, brightness works. That may be all it does. I may not have any color patterns on this one. Again, I'm not reading the directions. I might be missing some of the features of the RGB. It's not RGB, is it? It's just LED.
Backlit.
What's that?
It's called the backlit.
Is it backlit when it's just the keys themselves? The letters are lit, not the area behind the key like these two. So we have a function button. It's got to do more than just brightness though, right? I'm kind of studying the keypad to see what I'm missing. 1, 2, and 3 are each Bluetooth programmable for 3 different Bluetooth devices, where it's ZXC on this other keyboard. It's 1, 2, 3. On this one, and I don't see any other options on the keys displayed. Let me put it in USB mode instead of Bluetooth mode. Well, apparently it's going to get power through USB, so it won't even light up at all. I have to put it on Bluetooth mode to demonstrate. And it does show that the colors, the lights do have a pattern. I just don't know how you can forcibly cycle through those patterns. On a keyboard this expensive, you should be able to. When you plug it into USB, the escape key will light up in red when the battery is charging. Huh. I wonder if I have to pair it first before I can I'm just going to try all of them. Not sure, folks. Not quite sure. It's not obvious, whatever it is. This one's just going to keep going, isn't it? Until I turn that off. It's going to drive me crazy.
Function key, insert home, and delete.
On which keyboard?
On the retro.
They're all retro. On the Azio?
Yeah.
Function and what? Insert?
Insert, home, and delete.
Well, home isn't doing anything. I don't see an insert. What else?
To turn it on, it's function plus insert,
I don't have an insert.
INS.
I don't have an INS button on this.
Okay. Function end.
Function end doesn't do anything.
Function home.
Function home doesn't do anything. I might have to pair it first before we can use that, or I might have to plug it into USB first because the Bluetooth light is blinking at me. Anyway, depending on why you're buying a keyboard, I suppose. I don't buy it for RGB. I don't mind if the lighting is on, but I wouldn't want the lighting moving unless the keyboard, I'm walking away from it. I wouldn't want it doing all this movement while I'm trying to work, especially if the room is dark. Give you a seizure. So that I would keep it like that personally. And yes, if I put this in USB mode and plug it into a USB cable, maybe then I would be able to utilize some of the light patterns that I wouldn't use. It looks cool on camera though. Let me bring the lights back up here. Let me look and see if you guys have any questions for me in the chat room. Master Singleton says you have to pair it first before you can change the lighting. Yeah, okay, well, I appreciate you verifying that. That was my thought. When people buy product, in my line of work, very few people ever really read the directions. They'll take something out of a box, they'll immediately start using it. And in most cases, they're successful at that, but there may be features they didn't know were available to them that they would have used had they taken the time to read the directions. What I try and do is keep everything as authentic and genuine as I can to show that I'm not putting a whole lot of studying and rehearsals into my videos. I want to quickly see how intuitive these products are. If they're not intuitive, I don't think that's a good sign on the engineering. Typically, there'll be notices over the keys for secondary function. I do understand some of these keyboards may need to be either plugged in or initialized through Bluetooth before some features are available. It makes perfect sense. And I'm not here to sell you these keyboards. This is not a sponsored video. This is paid for with money generated by YouTube and through your contributions to give you content that I feel is different from what I normally make, and to plant a seed for you. If you're interested in these keyboards but you don't specifically like these, just knowing that these exist so you can search for them in places like Etsy or Amazon or eBay, you'd be surprised what comes up. So some people don't think twice about their keyboard. They buy the cheapest plank they can and they're fine with it. Other people are like, I do a lot of typing and that's my main interface to my computer. The computer's main interface to me is the monitor. My interface to it is the keyboard and mouse. If you don't do a lot of typing, it's not important to you. If you are like me, you do a lot of typing, you want a comfortable keyboard, and you want to treat yourself to something kind of special, kind of elegant, know that these exist and search them out and see if there's something there that strikes your fancy. That's the point of the video. I'm not here to demonstrate every bell, whistle, and feature. I'm just here to introduce you to the product. So let me scroll through the chat and see what questions I may have missed. Mars Somel says it's sad I can't get these in the UK. I like the Azio Retro. I'm surprised. I would think that Amazon UK would have these. That Azio Compact is really nice. Yeah, that one I don't have here, but I'm tempted. It's very expensive. Frank M says, far out, man. George Armstrong says he loves it. Are they good to type on? It depends who you ask, right? Everybody's got a preference. Some are touch typists, some like a longer throw, some prefer mechanical keyboards versus membrane or the other way around. These are all mechanical. I can type on anything. You know, these like laptop style keys where they're very low profile, they don't have much throw. I'm fine with these, I'm fine with these. I'm not too particular when it comes to a keyboard. I don't like the ergonomic keyboards that are bent. Thank goodness that's mostly a fad that's gone away. But what I really like in a keyboard is a solid feel because I can type with purpose. If it's too loud, this one's probably the loudest. It's distracting. This one and this one, about the same volume. Key throws on this one are shallower. These go down a bit further, and these go down about the same as this one. But these are much, much louder, which could drive people around you crazy, which, you know, might be your goal. So all personal preference in that. Morton says you've got to get the mouse to go with it. I don't think they make one, do they? I'm not sure. When I bought these over a year ago, so I was just looking for unique typewriter style keyboards, and then they got pushed to the side for other projects that were prioritized. And I thought, man, I need to get this video done, and that's why I'm doing a rare broadcast on a Saturday, so I can finally get it done. Bob R says you don't need to put in paper or need to change the ribbon, right? He knows. And Mortant sends me a link to Azio's website for the mouse. Oh, that's a very generic looking mouse. I'm not impressed. Great idea to go direct to Azio though to see all the keyboards that they offer because Amazon might not carry them all. That was a good idea. And they have quite a selection here. It looks like they've got 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22 keyboards. Cool. Thanks for the link. Will I make more cooking videos? Yeah, I intend to go back to the cooking videos once I can get caught up with all my real work. Everybody's got to eat though, right? So eventually, when I get all this work caught up, I will not bury myself like this ever again. And I will want to make some different content just to break up the monotony for me. So that will probably be maybe this summer if things go well. And those videos will be in addition to the regular videos I make. Jose Del Nido says, greetings from Chile, where it's 104 degrees today. Holy cow, it's too hot. Frank M says, I remember the Atari 400 had pressure-sensitive keys. I had an Atari 400. It had a flat keyboard. You had to push really hard on it to get the letters. There was a physical keyboard upgrade from a third-party manufacturer that I modified my Atari 400 so it was easier to type on. But I probably had that Atari 400 for a year or two before I could afford that keyboard. And you had to, it wasn't designed to be replaced. So when you opened up the Atari 400, the keyboard swap out was not easy. It was a third-party kludge that somebody came up with and started a company to sell those things, and boy did it make a big difference. The Atari 800 had a nice keyboard on it, but it was much more money. I couldn't afford an Atari 800. Those were the days. George says, thanks, Carrie. It's always interesting watching your stream. Hey, George, thanks for hanging out with us. Bob R. says, remember the first IBM keyboards. There's people that still want those today. Those Keytronics, they were like Keytronics 101s, I think. They were the IBM keyboards. Lawn Dog says, give me a keyboard with nice keys and some backlighting and I'm good to go. My needs are not complex. I just need a keyboard for working in the dark. I'm sure that's not good for your eyes. These are what I would consider luxury keyboards. I'm not sure these are ideal for the normal everyday computer user. I'm not sure they would see much benefit in it. And if you told them the keyboard was $150 or $200, they'd probably flip their lid like you were crazy to spend that kind of money. But there are people who appreciate the retro styling and uniqueness of these keyboards that would be willing to pay that kind of money to have something so unique and certainly a conversation piece. And of course, to be able to take your phone with you on vacation, if you just take one of these and set your phone sideways and you can actually get some work done, it's a pretty neat idea, especially with a tablet where you have a bigger screen, because smartphones and tablets are really devices to consume content. But by pairing them Bluetooth with something like this, if you're a writer, now these consuming devices can be a limited creation device in as much as, at least as far as data entry goes, it's much more comfortable, much more efficient. Feral Sparky joins us in the chat and says, hello, welcome in there, Feral Sparky. CCTV user says, I cannot watch content on a phone. It's pure insanity. You know what? If you're sitting on public transportation, if you live in New York, Boston, you're on a subway, you're on a train, you're on a bus, you need to bide your time. I could certainly watch YouTube videos on my phone. I wouldn't want to watch a blockbuster movie with, a lot of money and special effects on a screen this big, but I'll definitely watch YouTube videos on my phone if I'm sitting around with nothing to do and I'm stuck somewhere. Particularly with headphones of some kind, so I'm not disturbing the people around me. Mark Gaines, 10 pounds in Super Chat, says, sorry, Carrie, what I meant to say earlier was that I've been a supporter for 7 months. I was not able to comment on the members only chat earlier. So the members only chat, if you could see the video, then you could chat. So I'm not sure what's going on there. That's interesting. We definitely want to have you perhaps maybe log out of YouTube, log back in again, or try it with a different browser. You may have a browser extension that was conflicting, or you're confusing supporter versus subscriber. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look at what YouTube is showing me as who's on my supporter list. Because if you're on the supporter list, if you're paying $9.99 a month, then you should have been able to chat in the earlier video today. And Danny56 joins us. Captain Blinsky joins us. Welcome in, guys. Bob R. said he had a portable Royal. Royal made typewriters like Smith Corona. Tom Hanks is a typewriter aficionado. Tom Hanks collects typewriters. He gives them as gifts to people that he cares about. He is an absolute type head. Is that a thing? pretty interesting. Tom Hanks has a fixation on old school typewriters, in case you didn't know that. Any other questions I can answer for you? I'll take any questions on tech related, not just on keyboards. If there's something you want to know. If you're in the chat room and you want to answer any of the questions, feel free to offer up your advice so it gives the person asking some different, I'm sure your answers will be different than mine, and it gives them something to consider which answer, if either one, would be more appropriate for that specific person. Kabliski says, after using a split Microsoft keyboard for 27 years, I purchased the Logitech K350 Wave, and I'm liking the board very much. Oh man, I hated that. I hated that split keyboard. You have no idea. Luke Greenia says he's got an RGB mechanical keyboard made by Steel. It's a bit pricey, but I wanted it for the Musitex build. Steel. Didn't Razer make Steel? Or there's two different companies. I'm going to Google that. It's very familiar to me. SteelSeries. From SteelSeries.com. They remind me of Corsair keyboards. The Apex 9 Mini is pretty cool, and they're pricey. But those are considered, if I'm not incorrect, they're considered gaming keyboards where you can get them with the red switches, blue switches, brown switches, or the tactile red switch. So these colors, red, blue, brown, are not, they're how they're describing how much downward pressure and how loud the keyboard is, what the throw of the actual switch is that the keycap sits on top of. So just like you have Western Digital drives, you have Western Digital blue, Western Digital green, Western Digital purple, Western Digital red, Western Digital black. That's the family of drive. The greens are the economical drives for like video surveillance. The blues are the generic drives for generic use and pre-built machines. The blacks, Western Digital black, are the high performance drives. The Western Digital reds are for NAS devices. In much the same way, this company called Cherry makes keyboard switches that they are labeled as red, blue, or brown based on how tactile they are, how loud they are, how much throw they have. Some people like a more sensitive key. Some people want a more resistant key. So that's why I say keyboards, to determine if it's any good or not, it's really up to the individual, to what your personal preferences are. I can't tell you what keyboard's going to be easier for you to type on. It's something only you can decide. CCTV user with a £5 contribution said, here's a little early Christmas contribution for you, Carrie. Right on. Well, thank you again, CCTV user, for helping to support this channel. Cherry Blue says, I've been using a Royal Kluge keyboard for a few months. Surprisingly nice typing experience. Not cherry switches though, some sort of brown switch. It's not bad. I have featured the Royal Kluge keyboard here, which is also a Typewriter gaming keyboard. And you can search my channel for Kluge, KLUDGE, if you want to watch that video. Carlos Hernandez wants to know, on a Netgear router, can you use the USB without the ReadyShare software? No software is required at all. You simply plug the USB drive into your Netgear router, and then you should be able to browse your network and see that drive available in your network. You can also type in to your search area on your taskbar, //ReadyShare, and hit enter, and it should show you your connected drive. No software is needed. Bikeman says, yesterday I was updating a folder of purchased music on my Western Digital external drive that I bought from Amazon, and it said fatal hardware error. Yikes. He was plugged into his powered USB 3.1 hub. Well, that's not good. Definitely plug it into something else and see if the error is consistent, if it's the drive or if it's the hub. Bob R. wants to know if I've seen the new memory modules DDR5 that Dell is putting in new laptops. So yeah, I read about that last April. That's like really old news, Bob R. That's like from way earlier this year. I don't believe that's going to catch on. Nobody that competes with Dell wants to pay Dell royalty to use their RAM. So likely that'll be proprietary standard that's Dell only. And if Dell does that, it'll be a reason not to buy Dell. Dell seems to think that their way is better, but I highly doubt HP and Acer and other manufacturers of laptops are going to be willing to give their competitor a royalty to use the competitor's designed RAM. I don't think it's a benefit. I think Dell's making a huge mistake and should know better from past experience when they've done other proprietary things that they think are superior. Sony used to do this all the time, and I stayed away from Sony because of it. I'm not excited about it. I am offended by it. I don't like the marketing spin Dell has put on this to suggest that their way is better than the conglomeration of companies that make RAM that decide the DDR4 and DDR5 standards. So what Dell is essentially saying is they're going to create a proprietary memory standard where you can only purchase from Dell. No one else will make it, more than likely, and they can charge whatever they want to for it. Nothing to be happy about. It's upsetting. Now, if I'm wrong, which is possible, it happens a lot, and it becomes an industry standard, and the competitors of Dell are willing to pay a royalty, a license fee, to use that technology, I will be shocked. It's got a name. Dell's new RAM is this was announced way back in, it's called CAMM instead of DIMM, D-I-M-M, it's C-A-M-M. And it's maybe the C stands for controversial. But yeah, that's way back in April, that news. ACK wants to know, what advice would you give to someone who's just gotten their CompTIA A+ certification and is looking to become a PC technician? Well, I don't think the A+ certification is anything worth getting. I don't think any certification is worth getting unless an employer requires it. So if you're applying for jobs at a PC repair place and they say, I'm sorry, we're not going to interview you because you don't have A+ certification, then definitely go get the A+. But to just get the A+ first and look for the job second, I think you've done it backwards and you spent money and time you didn't need to. Maybe. Basically, look for a job because the certification is worthless. It teaches you nothing. The best experience is to actually do the work. Companies have policies and procedures and they vary from company to company to company. So put yourself in a desktop support position at a corporation or get hired on as a tech, and I'm going to put that in quotes, at places like Geek Squad or Staples, Office Max, in a retail where you're dealing with customers. Customers will bring in the strangest things, and some of the customers are the strangest people. It's very good experience for you. But the corporate environment was a lot more controlled. You don't have as much variety. You're going to learn to do things their way. If you leave that corporate job to another corporate job, then you will have to do things the new company's way. Very few things carry over from one company to another, and that's why these certifications, for the most part, are a complete waste of time and money, unless, of course, it's required to be considered for a position. But get some experience. It's the best thing I can tell you. A year of experience at a retail environment and a corporate environment, so 2 years total, will be better than any certification you'll ever have, and you will have seen it and done it. Pretty much anything you need to do from that point forward, you'll have something some previous experience related to that that'll be easy for you to grasp it quickly and get to work and be an efficient and productive employee. Farrell Sparky wants to know, would you rather see mobile RAM move towards a module, either Dell's version or one more open for all the companies to use, or soldered RAM? It's an expense. So soldered RAM is used to cut expenses when your consumer is only looking at dollar signs. Oh, here's a laptop for $300, here's a laptop for $1,000. I'm going to take the $300 one. That's what most consumers only look at. They don't care what the difference is. They both have Windows, they both surf the web. Why do I need the $1,000 one? If there's two $300 ones, how does the consumer pick? They're gonna go, well, maybe, they flip a coin. I don't know how they decide. If you're making laptops and you can get your laptop $5 cheaper by reducing the expense of manufacturing it, by soldering the RAM on instead of paying for the socket, then you're $295 versus $300 on the competitor. Many consumers will just take that $295 laptop because it's $5 cheaper. Most consumers don't care if RAM is soldered on or not. And when it's time for them to care, when they go to upgrade it well out of warranty, they find out it's soldered on, then they're upset. But that's what they bought. So soldered on RAM is fine when we're trying to hit a certain price point. Expandable RAM is fine for certain types of users. One is more preferred than the other. There's not a universal answer there. Intel wants to put the RAM on the CPU. So we'll see how all this plays out. Lawn Dog says, I learned more computer repair techniques by staying after class, getting involved with a very driven teacher who showed us how to repair computers beyond what's in the certification. It still doesn't compare to real life. You can simulate things, you can virtualize things. But that's not even 50%. It's not even half the experience of doing it in real life. I'm not a fan of simulation. In real life, things happen that you won't believe. Whether you're dealing with people who are unbelievable, the things they bring in are unbelievable, or the problems and sometimes the solutions you would never have believed if you hadn't seen it with your own eyes and would never think to try and simulate that. So it's all good in practice, but in reality, you'll find a lot of that does not carry over, that it just can't be taught any other way than through experience. At least that's been my experience. Remember, when I started in this industry, there were no classes you could take, or the classes were already obsolete because the technology was moving so fast. They're teaching about DOS 5 and DOS 6.2 is out. By the time they write the books, publish them, and get them distributed, we're now in Windows 3.1. They're already obsolete. So in order to learn it way back in the day, you had to learn it before you could teach it. So by the time you're ready to teach it, there's already something new out. So at least the evolutionary process of from 286 to 386 to 486 to Pentium, it's calmed down a lot. So now there's time to get the information out. So keep in mind that from my perspective, there were experiences that no one ever had before. There were computer problems no one ever had before. So there was no point of reference. You just had to get in there and do it. So that's how I learned. There was no book. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no book that replaces any experience in life. There's no flight simulator that's anywhere near flying in a plane. There's no sense of death, of life or death. There's no sense of momentum or gravity. There's no sense of motion. It's all numb. Same with driving simulators. You take a fast turn, you're not pushed off to the side trying to hold on to the wheel, afraid you're going to hit the wall. It's maybe exhilarating, but it's not real, and you know it's not real. It's driving in a simulated, Forza driving game versus actually driving that car in real life are not relatable in any way. So I'm not a fan of any simulation as a means to say I'm ready for reality now. You were always ready for reality. Those simulations probably did very little to actually help, maybe a little tiny bit. And by getting in and doing the work and being there, that will teach you so much better, so much faster, and it's all real and not made up out of imagination of possibilities, which may or may never happen. Essential Working Too Hard with a $10 Super Chat contribution says, hey, Carrie, I enjoy your videos, both entertaining and educational. Well, thank you, Essential Working Too Hard. And Bob R., also with a $10 Super Chat, says, I always learn new information. Excellent content. Thanks, Carrie. Speaking of being a computer tech, I want to give a shout out to Instant Housecall. My good friend Corey Fruitman, they're out of Toronto, is the owner, founder of Instant Housecall. The new version, 7.01, I use it almost every day now. It's my go-to for remote repair for my clients. It's very responsive, it's very affordable, and you can download a free trial, instanthousecall.com. Decide for yourself. This is not remote software intended for average folks. It can be, but it's really intended for computer techs. And for as cheap as it is, you could do one remote job to pay for a month's worth of Instant Housecall. So, it's not eating into the bottom line too much. And it's going to save a lot of money in gas driving back and forth to a client. You can help the client faster. You can help more clients in an 8-hour day if you can work on them remotely. And the remote software is very affordable. I have an interview with Corey Fruitman. It was a couple weeks ago, last week, 2 weeks. To learn more about Instant Housecall, you can watch that video, or just go to Instant Housecall, download it, and just try it yourself. Be like me. Don't worry about the instructions. See if it's intuitive for you. Then read the instructions afterwards. Feral Sparky says, one of the annoying things they don't list on the Amazon, eBay, or whatever pages online are if the RAM is soldered on or not. Well, that's easy to determine though, right? You know the make and model of the laptop? What I would do is go to YouTube and put that make and model of laptop in the YouTube search with the word upgrade or disassembly, because I want to see how easy is it to take apart. Regardless if it's upgradable or not, if it's really a bear to get it apart, it still may not be worth getting if you're likely to break the little delicate tabs, or you have to buy special tools to get it to crack open. Most end users do not upgrade their hard drive or RAM in their laptops. It's not common. So putting that information out for most users is only going to confuse them. They won't know what it means, and it won't impact them anyway. The vast majority of laptop owners never upgrade the laptop at all. Ever. Oystein, hey, there's Oystein with a 100 Norwegian kroner contribution. He says, I'd love to see you make a video on how to set up a VPN on a router and, for example, only have a VPN on a guest network without it affecting the wired network. Well, what do you mean by affecting? If you're on the same network and you're pulling down a large amount of data, it could potentially slow down everybody else on that same router, unless you restrict it in the router to have a speed limit or a data limit. With regards to setting up VPN on a router, it depends on the router. So even if I show it, whether or not your router will support, say, OpenVPN, or I know there were 3 different options on one of the routers we looked at earlier. So it's not like there's just one way to put a VPN on, except with some routers, there is only one way. With other routers, there's 2 ways, 3 ways, and if it's a cheap router, no way at all. I don't personally use a VPN on a router. I would use a VPN software on the computer, because the only time I need a VPN is when I'm traveling. I wouldn't take my router with me. So if I'm at home and I want to remote into my house, then I would do that with remote software that encrypts both sides, like Instant, the Wi-Fi. It's still being shared. Well, it looks like we had a disconnect. I don't know how much I just lost there. But if I were sitting in a Starbucks I would be very concerned about people looking over my shoulder at what I'm typing. I would be very concerned about a man-in-the-middle attack that I would never know is happening. If I wanted to check my bank account or pay a credit card, not only am I worried about the security cameras watching what I'm doing, because it may not have honest people working the security cameras, or the people around me, but I would use a remote login software. I would have my computer on at home. I would use instant Housecall. I would log into it. I would have a secure encrypted connection, and then I would look at my bank account using my home computer, not my laptop. That I would be controlling my home computer remotely, securely through my laptop. So that way, anything on the Wi-Fi isn't going directly to the bank, just in case they're eavesdropping. But I still would be worried about people looking over my shoulder. Let me ask you this, Oystein. Help me. What is your goal? So what is it you want accomplished by enabling VPN on the router? What is it? How would you use that to justify that? Because I've never needed to do that, so I couldn't even tell you how. I'd have to study it. I'm sure it's not difficult, but I just don't know why it would be necessary. But you might have a unique situation there I hadn't considered that it would be worth setting that up. And I'd be curious what that is, sincerely, why we would use that. I know it's a feature on a router for a reason, but I don't know if it's really being utilized in a manner that you couldn't just emulate or have the same security with a remote connection. Feral Sparky says, turns out Dell has no license fees to use the CAM module. Well, that is odd, but that still doesn't mean competitors will adapt to it. You have to understand how standards are set in the industry, whether we're talking USB, Wi-Fi. It's a conglomeration of the manufacturers who come together and debate and argue about what the standards are going to be coming up, whether, what defines DDR5. And so the people who manufacture the RAM, the big manufacturers, they each think they have a better way. And they work all this out to define a standard. When Dell says, we're doing it our way, we're not conversing with you guys in the manufacturing arena. We say it's superior because we said so. So even if there are no license fees, it still seems unlikely it would be adopted by anybody other than Dell. Master Singleton says, I use the VPN function for work purposes. Once again, when we talk about work, for a lot of people that work from home, the IT department at the corporation will say you need to load this VPN software. It has to be that specific software. You have to configure it this specific way. A lot of times it's like Cisco or these big enterprise. It's not something you set in your router. It's something that's set in the computer itself. I don't know any employees who work from home who are required to have a specialized router with a configurable VPN to remote in. I'm not aware of that. Do you work for yourself? Master Singleton says, I work for myself. Okay, that makes sense. In order to answer your question, I just need to understand what our goal is, right? It's sometimes people ask a question that has absolutely nothing to do with what they're trying to accomplish. So if I don't ask them what they're trying to accomplish, and I'm instead just focused on answering their question, quite often they come back and say, well, that didn't solve the problem. Well, that's what we should have started with, is what's the problem we're trying to solve, rather than asking me what the answer is to a technical question that you think solves the problem when you haven't even told me what the problem is. So I'm trying to understand where using a VPN in a router, how that would be used for, how, if you're using it, how are you using it? I understand if you're self-employed. I understand if you're a hobbyist and you want a VPN back to your NAS at home. I get that. That's fine. I already do that, but what I do is I leave my computer on. I have Instant Housecall installed, and I simply remote in using Instant Housecall. It's encrypted, and I use my home computer through my laptop. So I have access to my NAS, I have access to everything without the complexity of and the slowing down that VPNs have that tax the performance of the network. At least in my experience, VPNs, especially software VPNs, just put a drain on my performance, on the network bandwidth performance. Clay says, you mentioned in your previous video on router reviews that you could share a hotel's internet connection if you brought your router with you, and you mentioned a VPN would be a good thing to have. I think these are two different things. One, you wouldn't bring your router with you, but you would bring a portable router, specifically designed, it's compact. You could bring a portable router with you and use that to share, for example, a hotel's connection that may be charging per connection to defeat that. With regards to the VPN comment, that was simply stated to say, if you're somebody who's already using a VPN built into your router, then you can buy these little portable routers with that same configuration that you have at your router at home. It wasn't implied that I would walk through that, because I'd have to go rent a hotel and bring my camera equipment with me in order to demonstrate how it all works. I was really just planting a seed because I'm trying to appeal to the greatest, widest audience possible. And so what we're talking about now is so niche, probably fewer than 10% of my viewers would have any interest in this. So for those 10%, I encourage you to look that information up as it pertains to what it is you're trying to accomplish. By making a video about how to set up a VPN on a router, you have to understand that there are consequences, there are challenges, and there are different configurations and possibilities depending on which router you have and what it is you're trying to do. So to make a video on that is so specific. And then I have to say, when I'm making the video, why is this information valuable to you? And so I'm having a hard time justifying why I would go through that much effort when I could simply remote into my computer. And so I'm asking you to help me. What am I missing that the VPN is going to do for me that I'm not already doing with remote software? Obviously, the VPN that you're connecting to something has to be left on 24/7 at the other side. So why not just make it your home computer? Please explain to me what I am missing. I've never understood why anybody uses a VPN service on a router. I've never gotten it. I've never met anybody who's ever used it, and I've never seen any corporation that requires it for remote users. Doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means in over 30 years in this industry, I've never once had that service call. So please teach me. What is it? It's there for a reason. Who is using that and why are they using it? Sincerely, I have no idea. Cherry Blue wants to know, do you see USB-C becoming more relevant on desktop PCs? It seems like motherboard makers just add it as a nice to have feature, but I have yet to utilize it. Oh, USB-C is becoming very common, especially on laptops. We have an ingrained infrastructure of older USB devices that are still functional. So it's not like everybody's going to go replace working equipment simply because they have a different connector. It's not like their scanner is going to scan any faster. If it's working, it's working. So it's going to be a slow phase out before everything becomes USB-C. Hopefully Your laptop will be powered through USB-C. You'll be able to recharge all your electronic devices with USB-C, so you don't have to pack 12 different power adapters and cables when you travel. You can plug your razor blade in, you can plug your toothbrush in, you can plug your smartphone in, you can plug your laptop in, just bring one plug. Many hotels that I've stayed at already have USB built into the wall next to the bed, and you can just bring a cable, plug in. It's not typically the best USB as far as power delivery goes, but that will come as more and more people start to utilize it. I do believe USB-C will absolutely become the standard until it's eventually replaced with something else. You know, you can plug it in either direction. You don't have to play that little game with flipping the cable one way or the other. One end of the cable is different from the other end of the cable. It can carry more wattage, it can carry more data, and it can do it all faster. So, yes, it's just something that takes time. But thank you for the question. And Oystein, you know, I'm looking to see if Oystein responded, because I'm sincere about wanting to understand why we would go through the complexity of setting up a VPN on a router, and then the opposite of connecting a machine to it to accomplish what task? I'm reading through your comments. See, Taffer says, I use ExpressVPN. It's awesome when I go on vacation. It makes you feel pretty safe. That's fine. Again, I just use remote software, so I don't have to worry about that stuff. And I don't pay the bandwidth deficit. Oystein, there he is. He says, what I meant by effect is that my wired network will have my normal IP address. But if I want to, for example, connect my TV to a guest network with VPN to access content that is locked behind a country. So this is what I was afraid of. You're asking me how to steal. It's stealing. How to get around or circumvent intellectual property rights. To violate copyright law, it is theft. I cannot condone that action nor teach it if the intent is to encourage the theft of intellectual property or to circumvent copy protection. As a professional in this industry, I can be held liable and accountable to that. As a hobbyist, as an enthusiast, as a home user, you're not under the scrutiny that I'm under as a business owner, and you won't have the liability that I have by teaching people in a professional worldwide platform how to circumvent the intellectual property rights that are in place for a reason. I think it would be very unprofessional for me to even humor that request to that purpose, because now we're doing something with, depending on where you live, an unlawful intent. I'm not here to encourage that. There are ways to watch that content legally in most cases where you're not circumventing any rules. You have to ask yourself why that's being blocked. And to circumvent that, it's like this door is locked, so teach me how to break in. But that's not your door. and it would be irresponsible as a professional to teach you how to break in. So you might find that on hobbyist YouTube channels, but I have a business to protect and I have liabilities. And what if it was your content and somebody was doing it to you? How would you feel about that? So what you do on your time is up to you. What I teach, on the other hand, has to be responsible. So to make a video with that being our goal, let me show you how to enable the VPN so you can get around content blocking. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm not going to tell you, I'm not the lawmaker and I'm not the law enforcer. You understand? So I'm not going to tell you it's right or wrong. And I'm not going to tell you if you choose to do it that it's right or wrong. That is not my place, nor does my opinion matter, nor will it change anything. You're going to do what you're going to do. But I cannot willfully create a video with the intent being to teach people how to circumvent copyright law. That is an open liability for me that could damage not only my business, put me out of business or put me in a courtroom. I could get a cease and desist letter forcing me to take that video down. I could be demonetized on YouTube. So if you're a little tiny creator, you probably get away with it. The more popular you are, the more scrutiny you're going to get. And you're going to set yourself up when your intent was to help. So that scares me. Well, I appreciate suggestions for content that you want to see. I just need to understand what our goal is so I can determine if that is, if there's another easier, less complicated way to accomplish your goal. Or whether or not it would be appropriate for the channel. So don't hesitate to make suggestions if you want to see videos. Sometimes it's pretty obvious why people want to know something. Other times it confuses me and I'm concerned in the back of my mind that it's nefarious. But I'm not going to say it is. You need to tell me what you're trying to do, and I may not be okay with it for the reasons I've already given. On the other hand, if what we're trying to do is legit, then it would certainly be something for me to consider to make content on. But I have to understand before I make the content, what's the purpose of the content? What are we trying to accomplish here? I need to know that before I start. Otherwise, what am I making? Why am I making it? Colin says, I don't think he necessarily meant copyrighted content. Some countries block access to certain websites. North Korea blocks access to Facebook. Once again, if you're a citizen of that country and you circumvent your country's laws, and I'm encouraging that, you have to understand the liability that places me under. I don't believe we have many North Koreans watching this channel. Maybe I'm wrong, but you do understand what I'm saying, right? The region-blocked content is blocked for a reason. So to circumvent that is, in most countries, violating your country's laws. It may not be copyright law. There could be other laws involved here. There could be other reasons beyond intellectual property ownership. So taking what's not yours, last I checked, is theft. Master Singleton says, geographic restrictions are there for a reason. Such as UK-based TV content, you have to pay a tax for a TV license to watch TV, or at least the BBC. In the United Kingdom, the BBC is taxpayer funded, and it's funded through licenses. You need a license to watch the BBC in England. That's my understanding of how that works. I'm not sure if it applies to ITV or other television networks. To circumvent that, to take the content without paying for it, is a violation of UK law. What punishments it has, I don't know. But I don't want to be an accomplice in that. I don't want to encourage or condone that. There are other ways around it, like paying for it. George wants to know, if I had a message from Dell that your XPS laptop not recognizing the power supply. No. He says, I ordered a new power supply from Amazon and still getting the same message, not able to charge my laptop. I've seen that happen to computers, to laptops, not just Dell's, where the power adapter is not providing enough power to the laptop. It's the wrong wattage power adapter. Or the battery in the laptop needs to be replaced. Those are usually the two reasons. Sometimes the power board in the laptop is to blame. Not too often, no. Usually you need to replace the battery, which may be internal to the laptop. It may not be one of those batteries you just push a couple buttons and it pops out. You may have to disassemble the laptop, look at the numbers on the battery, order a replacement, put that in there, seal it back up. As long as you've got the right power adapter, if you've got the original power adapter, that should probably fix the problem. If the power adapter you were using is a replacement and started popping that message up, then that power, you don't have the right power adapter. It's not delivering enough wattage. Essential Working Towards says, could the battery be bad? Yes. In most cases, it's the wrong power adapter. I've had, for example, customers who have multiple laptops and they just plug whatever power adapter is closest by into whatever laptop they're, and they go, I'm getting this message. It's like, well, you've got the wrong power adapter plugged in. You use the power adapter from your other laptop on this laptop. You cannot do that. Is that something you might have done? Do you have more than one laptop? If you've been using the same power adapter since day one and it's always been working, now all of a sudden you're getting the message, my guess is it's your battery or your power board. Let's hope it's not the power board, because then it's just cheaper to buy a new laptop in most cases. Colin Longstuff's, with regards to the TV license to watch TV in the United Kingdom, he says, yes, it applies to all channels in the United Kingdom with up to a £1,000 fine. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get caught up in that. It's not worth it. No episode of Doctor Who is that important. Frank M. said, I have had that problem. Some batteries work and some don't on my XPS Dell 17 laptop. I guess they have to be compatible. In many cases, they do have to be compatible. However, when you're looking for a battery, you should go off of the numbers that are on the battery you have now. Look on Amazon, read reviews from other people who have bought that laptop, bought that battery for the same model of laptop and said, hey, this worked. Make sure you're buying from a seller that will take batteries back. It may not be the battery. However, if you've been using the same power adapter, nothing's changed. All of a sudden this message is popping up. And you just replaced the power adapter and it's the exact same wattage. Voltage and wattage are identical from one power. It says it on a sticker on the adapter. It will tell you what the power and wattage are. How many volts and how many watts. That has to be identical. If they're not identical, don't expect it to work. If they are identical and hasn't made a difference, the next step would be the battery. If after the battery it still doesn't work, the next step would be power board or main board. You can see this could get expensive. How old is the laptop? Is it worth putting this much money and time into? That's up to you to decide. Hey, there's Oystein again. 100 Norwegian krona. Once again, very generous Oystein. I thank you. He says, you misunderstand me. To create an account to pay for content, you must be in that country to create the account. I do understand you cannot create video content that encourages stealing. Can you give me an example? Help me understand what you're trying to describe. Because I'm confused. And I do, sincerely, I want to help you, but I just don't understand the problem. if you have to be in that country to create an account in that country, there's a reason for that. Why wouldn't they allow anybody who wants to give them money to give them money? For what purpose would there be to say only people in the UK, let's just say, can sign up for an account to watch BBC? And I'm not saying that's the case here. That's why you need to give me a real world example. You're trying to go where? What is it you're trying to do precisely? Let me see if I can understand this. I'm just sort of hung up with, there's so many streaming services with Hulu and Netflix and Amazon and Disney Plus. What content are they not providing to you in Norway that you're so desperate to get? Help me. There may be another way. So you're asking me how to solve a problem, but I'm not quite sure what the problem is, and there may be a much easier solution than your question. Robert Morton says, good discussions about laptops and soldered memory. I'm in the market for a new laptop. Since I'm in the market for a new one, my laptop is at least 6 years old, if not older. Yeah, it's about time. Any laptop over 4 years old, I would consider replacing. I know some of you have laptops that are 10 years old. If it meets your needs and it's working, all the power to you. Jason Willis says Baywatch is banned in some countries. There's got to be more to this story. I mean, there's got to be more to it than just saying Baywatch is banned in some countries. I wish you guys would provide links to me, something that would explain what you're saying. Let's see. It could be ethics problems in the Middle East where they don't, where they consider scantily clad bikinis to be morally reprehensible. Yeah, so perhaps India, for example, may consider it too raunchy. What about Australia? The American producers of the bikini-focused Baywatch television series found themselves in hot water yesterday after they announced they were scrapping plans to relocate from California to Australia's Gold Coast. The Queensland state government accused them of double dealing. Queensland government said the makers of the series had agreed to move to the coast near Brisbane only so that they could leverage more concessions from Hawaii, the new location for the show. Their coming to Queensland yesterday was nothing but a deceitful charade designed to panic Hawaii into signing a deal immediately. Now, this has nothing to do with banning it, though. So there's some politics at play here, at least on that subject. Master Singleton says YouTube TV is US only. Okay, but that's not because of YouTube. You have to understand the networks, NBC, CBS, ABC, they say if you want to sell our content, and this applies to your cable provider has to pay them. Then your cable provider has the license to redistribute that within a certain region. They can't go beyond that region. That's how they make money. That's how Hollywood makes money. That's how these shows get paid for. It's not just paid for with commercials. Furthermore, the commercials are often regionalized, where you'll get different commercials. Perhaps in New York, you have national commercials, you have local commercials. And if you're in another country, in many cases, there's overdubbing, where you've got to pay voice actors to overdub the audio. And then you will get completely different advertising in that country so that they can generate, the people who finance the show can generate more revenue from their investment. So any circumvention of that is in effect theft. So let me look and see if Oystein was giving us a more precise example so I can understand better what it is we're trying to do, and if there's another way to do it that's not so difficult or controversial. Jose Del Nido says, I understand that when you create an account, let's say Netflix, I only have one part of the catalog since I'm in South America. If you're in America, there are other content available. Once again, the content is controlled by the content creator. The content creators decide what regions cover the license that the distributor is paying for. So if Netflix is paying a certain, and they guarantee they're paying a certain amount for, let's say, Baywatch, they're paying it to the production company or the syndicator of that show, and they're going to pay a fair amount for everybody else who wants to distribute it. Because you can't say you have to pay more than them. It's based on what's your distribution, and it's based on when you're going over somebody else's territory. You're not allowed to sell, you're competing against in an area where you're not operating, and therefore it's not your turf. Someone else has a license there. So imagine you paid a lot of money for a license to distribute Baywatch on your network, and Netflix in another country offers the same Baywatch series at a cheaper price and is directly competing with you. Why would any customers come to you? So it's not fair to have one company pay the same fees, let's say, as you're paying, but they have further reach than you have. Their licensing extends out. Now you're both paying the same parent company to compete against each other. Somebody's got to pay to create this content. You got to pay the camera, the crew. You got to pay the actors. You've got to pay the production. You've got to pay for the distribution. You've got to pay for the editing. You've got to pay for the sound. You're paying for an orchestra in many cases to write a custom theme to play in your titles of your. All of this is really, really super expensive, and it's not all covered by commercials. And again, the commercials may not apply if you're in another country, meaning that any amount of revenue that could have been generated has now been lost because you circumvented the system. So the more revenue they make, the more incentive there is to continue investing more and more into the content. If they're not making any money on the content, then these shows are canceled, right? That's pretty well known. You know, Netflix did Cowboy Bebop, which I absolutely loved it. I thought it was well done. They had a pretty fixed budget, but given the budget, oh my gosh, very well done. Unfortunately, they didn't give it enough time, in my opinion, so they didn't renew it for a season 2. So they're not giving a chance for an audience to warm up to it. It's very demanding. And all those people that worked on that crew for that series are now without a job. Potentially, they'll have to get a job at another series. And if that series gets canceled, Hollywood positions are all temporary. So you have to make the money while you're in production or make the money in syndication, but you have to have a certain number of seasons before you qualify for syndication. If you make syndication, well, you can make a lot of money. Look at Jerry Seinfeld. He's probably the wealthiest comedian in this country, a lot due to the syndication rights of Seinfeld. So you could say, well, he's got plenty of money. It's okay to steal from the rich. But again, if it's profitable for them, then they're more encouraged to sink money into another investment, into another show. Finding those investors. Why do you think we have so many reboots and sequels to movies? It's a safe investment. We just keep doing the same thing. We're not risking our money. So to put money into a project, a big, expensive $200 million movie, and that movie flops, do you have any idea who's losing the money? Do you ever think about who's just lost that money? We hear about how much money the movie makes, but what about when it doesn't make back what it cost? movie, like Touchstone Pictures. Is Touchstone Pictures still in business? There are production companies that have gone out of business. When James Cameron was working on Titanic, he was running behind schedule and way over budget. And the production company was angry, the investors were angry, and he was essentially, his career was threatened. They said, if this movie absolutely does not earn its money back, then you've gone over budget and you've gone past the due date. You will not work in Hollywood ever again. It was the most amount of money at that time ever spent on a film, and the production delays are not a good sign. Usually when a movie has production delays, the movie does not turn out well. And James Cameron fought for it, put his whole career on the line for that movie. And it did quite well. I think it did better than Star Wars. So now he can make whatever he wants. So you got to ask yourself, where is the money coming from that's paying for all of this? And how do they make that money back? It's not just commercials. Even if it was just commercials, the commercials that we have here in America are different than Canada or England or Australia. The same products aren't sold. Master Singleton says, yeah, Touchstone went defunct since 2017. So likely Touchstone put a lot of money into a picture to save the company, and it didn't work out, and then the company folded. That's how much money is going into these productions. So, you know, if you like content and you want to see more of it, you have to support it, or don't expect more of it. I'm looking to see if there was a response there where Oystein was explaining, like, give me a site that you're going to. Let me see it. So getting back to YouTube TV, that's not YouTube's decision. You understand that? NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, they control the distribution rights, and they control who's allowed, how much they're charged to rebroadcast their content. It's Roadrunner, Comcast, Cox Communications. They all have to pay licensing fees, and you'll be shocked at how much they're paying. You know those cable bundles where you have to get a bunch of channels you don't want? That's not the cable company doing that. That's the production company going, look, if you buy this channel, they're telling the cable companies and the satellite TV company, if you're going to want this channel, then you also have to have this channel. That's how they boost it. That's how they start to return their investment. They force it onto the cable providers. Then the cable providers then in turn have to force it on you. And if you think your cable television bill is a lot of money, I think you'll be shocked how little the cable company's actually making selling that television, redistributing that to you, when they have the expense of all the equipment, the infrastructure, and the maintenance and upkeep of all that equipment that the content creator isn't paying for. Oystein, if you're not comfortable talking about this publicly, reach out to me in an email if you want to share with me what it is you're trying to do, because I think there's an easier, more legit way to accomplish it. I do want to help you if it's possible, you know, where I'm not treading a line of concern in my business. I'm more than happy to help you. Bikeman said, I wanted to increase the RAM to the maximum allowed in my gaming laptop, but it was such a pain to open my HP Omen gaming laptop that the screwdriver I had only worked on 9 of the 10 screws, and then when I got to the 10th one, nope. Isn't that always the case? The 10th screw will strip out or something. So I have tools for that would have prevented that. Using the right tools is critical. That's why I say whether your RAM was soldered on or not, if you can't get the thing open, what difference does it make? That's a great example. If you understand in America how beer is distributed, you might be shocked to learn that the independent breweries are not as independent as you think they are. If the big beer manufacturers are the ones controlling and solely controlling the distribution, you need to get their approval and pay their fees, even though you are their competitor. There's a lot of things the average consumer in America has no idea about. And they don't understand why certain things are so much money, and it's more than just taxes. There are ingrained infrastructure, and these people have made a lot of money. And in making a lot of money, they can lobby Congress to continue to hold their position and have some power and control, which makes it harder to take away and change it and make it a fair system. We have a system in distribution, in that case, that's been around over 100 years. It ain't going anywhere. Is it wise to buy a laptop maxed out rather than upgrade later? Well, the maximum can change. Like my Dell XPS says the maximum is 32 gigs or something like that. Well, that's because there was no such thing as a module for a laptop larger than 16 gigs when the laptop was made. But later, 32 gig modules came out. So you could put two 32s in for a total of 64, but no one goes back and rewrites the manual. All it needed was a BIOS update. The reason the manual had that limit was at the time the manual was made, at the time the laptop was manufactured, there was no such thing as a 32 gig memory module that fit in the laptop. So if I would have bought that laptop already maxed out, a year later that max was doubled. But you may not be aware of that unless you're in the industry. Lawn Dog said, I'm trying a new hot sauce from Hellfire called Shred Damon. I give it a 5 on the heat scale, and it tastes pretty good. That's Mike tonight's recommendation. Hellfire is from Detroit, aren't they? Aren't they a Detroit-based hot sauce company? Forbin Colossus in the chat wants to know, when you format a solid-state drive for an old Dell laptop, do you prefer NTFS or FAT32? Windows 10 will go on the laptop's only SSD. FAT32 is a file allocation table, a file system from the 1980s, and it should not be used unless you've got very small media like 2 gigs or smaller. I think the maximum is 4 gigs on FAT32. So if you format something in FAT32 and you want to copy a 6 gig file, it's going to say you ran out of hard drive space, even though you're like, I've got plenty of hard drive space. No, FAT32 file system, I believe 4 gigs is the file size limit. It's also very easily corruptible. Nobody should be using FAT32 except maybe on a flash drive that's small in capacity. I highly recommend NTFS unless we're going back in time 30 years. But that's the reasoning behind that question, is that you're saying, should I use this old ancient file system or should I use the new file system? Of course, I'm going to tell you, you should use the new one. It's much more robust, it's much more efficient, and it's less likely to corrupt if it's shut down improperly. But thank you for the question. Some guy over 40 says, I bought a Samsung 970 EVO Plus 2 terabyte NVMe M.2 SSD. What do you think of that drive? I've promoted that drive here many times. I use it all the time. It's a great drive. It is a Gen 3 drive though. Not the fastest drive anymore. It's a very good drive. Master Singleton says use exFAT instead of FAT. So exFAT, exFAT, is again mostly designed for storage that you unplug and plug in. And that's a personal choice. I don't think exFAT is compatible with Mac without some kind of an upgrade. And maybe that's changed over time. So I have some flash drives that generally, however the flash drive comes formatted is what I'll keep it at. If it's exFAT, just FAT, FAT32 or NTFS, depending on the capacity of the flash drive. But when we talk about internal solid state drives, always NTFS. Weinstein said, America's Got Talent is a show I want to watch. You can only watch it on NBC, but I see now that it is available on Peacock. I didn't know it was available there, so that makes things easier. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Some people are still old school and they think they got to pirate everything, which is a pain in the rear end. It's in many cases illegal. And streaming has become so affordable. One of the justifications behind pirating is a VHS tape of Star Wars in the 1980s was $130 in 1980s money for a VHS copy of Star Wars. $130. I'm going to copy that. I'm not going to pay $130 for a VHS tape that degrades over time. It's not even high definition. No. So people justified the theft because they didn't have $130 extra to buy this movie they wanted. But now, when you can stream the movie for $9.99 a month, and you can stream not only that movie, but thousands of others from all different eras and genres, it's cheaper, it's easier. You just push a button and it comes to you. That pirating it is harder and many times more expensive than simply just consuming what you want when you want it through a streaming service. I used to rip all of my music. I used to rip the MP3s. First 128 kilobits per second, then 160, then 320, and then variable bit rate. I had to keep re-ripping the same CDs over and over to keep getting better quality as the drive space expanded. Flash drives weren't as much money. I was copying them and putting them on a CD that was, 640 megs and putting it in my car. Then I was able to put it on a flash drive, and then I wanted better quality. You know what I do today? I pay $10 to Spotify, and I don't even have a music collection anymore. What I want is available. If I don't want to pay the $10 a month, I still have my same music collection, but now it's going to have commercials in it, and I can't skip more than 5 songs an hour or something. So I don't have to worry about storing it or moving 300 CDs. I don't have to worry about re-ripping it to whatever the latest standard is. Oh, now I got to re-rip it to, FLAC. And now these files go from 4 megs to 40 megs, and the quality is imperceptible from the source material. It's just ripping the same CD is so time consuming. You think it's done, and then a year later it's like, oh, I got to do this again. I want better quality, and now that I can afford to put it on bigger storage, right? Storage got cheaper. Now, every time I need to update a song or add a song, I got to take the USB drive out of the car, bring it into the house, add the song to the USB drive, take it back out to the car, plug it in. Not anymore. I hear a song I like, I don't know what it is, I hit Shazam on the phone, it tells me the name of the artist, I click the button, add it to my Spotify, it's done. It doesn't cost me any more. So much easier. But I appreciate the follow-up, Boystein, and I'm glad you looked into it. Make life easier. So that's an example of when somebody asks a question and I want to know why you're asking. It's not to find fault. It's rather to see if what you're asking is going to solve what it is you're trying to solve. It always helps me to understand what is it we're trying to do before I answer a question. How do I enable VPN on my router? Hold on. Why do you want to enable VPN on your router? What is it you're trying to accomplish? Because likely there's a lot of other ways to do this that are less complicated and probably more reliable, easier, simpler, cheaper, faster? Maybe not. But I don't know that until I understand what the goal is. And that's why I ask. And if you're going to be a computer tech or you're helping friends and family, you've probably already experienced this. So you have to train yourself to not waste time with people where you walk them through the answering of the question. You click here, you click that, you do this, you click here, you click here, and they do it, and you've accomplished what they asked. But then they say, well, it didn't solve my problem. Well, now wait a minute. What was the problem? Oh, I'm trying to get my laptop connected in the bedroom. Well, none of this has anything to do with that. You should have told me that. So that's your fault. If you're the one that they're coming to for technical advice, then it's your responsibility to understand what it is they're trying to do rather than just simply blindly answering the question, assuming they understand why they're asking, because once again, this happens all the time. All the time. So when people do it themselves, if somebody's doing their own research, they'll get around to it. They'll figure it out. But when you're being asked, first thing you need to know, the very first thing is, what is it we're trying to accomplish? And then let me, as the technician, tell you how to accomplish it. Instead of answering a specific set of instruction, then we don't know why. It often is so frustrating for me. It took me a long time to learn that lesson. Frank M. says, the problem is shows like SEAL Team that you cannot see anymore on CBS and moved entirely to Paramount Plus. Well, yeah, they will do that. And in fact, because there are so many streaming services, you can expect one streaming service to buy another one. There's too many of them. They can't all sustain. Some of them are going to go. Just like there was DVD Plus R and DVD Dash R. There were different standards. There was beta, there was VHS. It takes time for one to wash out or for competitors to absorb each other. So it's temporary in this particular case. John Paul Bacon is telling Oystein that Peacock has all of the NBC channels. I think he means shows. Oh no, I guess channels. And you can watch any of them at any time. I watch a show called Pro Football Talk live on NBC Sports, Monday through Friday at 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Is this a commercial, John? Yeah, so, there's Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime. Who am I forgetting? HBO Plus, HBO Max? Yeah. Yeah. So there's too many of them. We'll start seeing some buying out the others. There's just too many of them. Nobody can afford to pay for every one of these. Well, very few people can afford to pay for all of the streaming services just because they have one show they want to watch on one streaming service and one show they want to watch on another one. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so Disney Plus is on my list, right? A lot of Star Wars content, all owned by Disney now, and Marvel too. So if you're a big Marvel fan, that may sway you from other streamers. If you've got, I'm going to spend $10. Who's going to get my $10? Is it going to Paramount? Is it going to Disney? Is it going to, at least with Amazon Prime, it comes with my Prime membership. I'm not paying additional for it. I don't use Amazon Music, even though I should. It'd probably be cheaper. I'm already comfortable with Spotify. I've already got my playlist set up. I like it. I'm not changing it. Unless they jack the price up where I think it's unreasonable, then it's a different story. John Swisher became a member of our tech club for a month. Right on, John. Thanks for joining us and supporting the channel and being a supporter. Carrie, did you watch Andor? If it's a Star Wars series, I've seen it. Yes, I did watch it. It was a little Blade Runner-ish for Star Wars, but there will be 2 seasons. a total of 24 episodes. So we're done with season 1. The first 12 are done. There'll be another season with another 12, and then that's, as far as I know, completely done. Mandalorian will start up again here pretty soon, I think. And there's a bunch of other spin-offs that I'm anxiously awaiting. All right, guys, we've been on for a while here. I think we'll wrap it up. How long have I been on?
Almost 2 hours.
A little over 2 hours and 5 minutes, according to OBS. That's good. That's a good place to stop. If you have any final questions, I'll do my best to provide answers. I'm not going to just rudely leave. But if you do have some questions, do please ask them now, or I'll assume that we're all good. Jay Powers says, "Hey Carrie, happy Saturday." Hey Jay, happy Saturday to you. Steve Martin and Martin Short are hosting Saturday Night Live tonight. Speaking of television, I'll look forward to seeing that tonight. Patrick Rousseau says, "Thanks for the weekend streams." Hey Patrick, well thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for joining. John Paul Bacon said, "No, I was not making a commercial. It's part of a response to a post that Oystein posted about being able to..." Well, I know what it was. I was just teasing you. I was poking you. Ron says, "Carrie, you've had a long day." That's every day of my life, Ron. Every day is longer than the day before. I've had my batteries recharged this week. So I've come back from Las Vegas, did it like a last minute trip out there I had to get away. I had to have a mental health treatment. I had a corporate retreat to figure out what direction I'm taking my business and my YouTube channel. And Amazon really upset me, and I just really needed to get out of town. And it was so rewarding. I'm come back recharged, renewed, and broke. Not from gambling. Not from gambling. Everything in Las Vegas is profoundly expensive. It's preposterous. It's insane the number of people that are there spending. You pay $15 to park your car at the hotel. $15 to $18 a day. Or for like 4 hours. So you go from the MGM Grand over to Caesar's Palace, you might as well walk, or you're going to spend $15 there, then drive over and spend $15 there. You better bring an extra $100 to park your car. Unless you park at the Venetian or the Wynn or Treasure Island, you're likely going to pay. Or Circus. They have a Meow Wolf out there in Vegas. I was very disappointed by it. The Meow Wolf in Santa Fe is better. Is he saying Meow Wolf? Yes, I'm saying Meow Wolf. A cat meows, and a wolf is a wolf. Put the two words together and look it up. It's pretty neat, interactive art, Burning Man style, but doesn't hold a candle to the original Meow Wolf in Santa Fe. There's one in Denver. They're opening 2 in Texas. Grapevine in Houston. They're opening 2 more, all financed by the Game of Thrones guy, George R.R. Martin is financing those. It's really neat stuff. Do I have any updates on Studio C? I do not. Ron wants to know if I won or lost money in Vegas. I don't gamble. I mean, I might throw $20 in a slot machine or some video poker. It's gone pretty quick. I am not a good gambler, so I did see the Blue Man Group. I've seen them many times. They're always worth it. They're over at the Luxor. I had to pay for parking. And then I went over to the Wynn and watched Jim Gaffigan, the stand-up comedian. Solid. That guy is good. I've never seen Jim Gaffigan live before. And hopefully I didn't make myself sick being around all the people that were there. It was very, very crowded. And very, very expensive. I can't underscore how simple little things are nickel and dimed except the nickels are not nickels, they're dollars, and the dimes are bigger dollars. I bought a Coca-Cola in one of those plastic yard glasses, $16. It's just a Coca-Cola. It's not even glass, it's plastic. What are you going to do? But I stayed out of Cartier and I stayed out of Coach and Louis Vuitton. I just walked right past all those stores. Rolex, just keep walking, not even looking. Had some nice meals, treated myself to some nice meals. Spoiled myself, really. And now I have to come back and pay for it all. So I'm back to work. He's doing a broadcast on Saturday. He must have just got back from Vegas. Las Vegas buffets. I don't do buffets. That is a waste of money for me. I'm too fussy of an eater. I just can't get over how expensive it is. I cannot believe how many people are spending that kind of money, even for a hotel room. It's crazy expensive. Frank says he saw David Copperfield there. I saw David Copperfield for my 25th birthday at the MGM Grand. He's still performing at the MGM Grand now. And he's not getting good reviews. They think he's washed up. He doesn't care anymore. I don't know if that's accurate or not. The last time I saw David Copperfield was 29 years ago. Oh my gosh. It's been longer since I've seen him than it was my birthday at the time, than I was on this planet. And he's still doing it at the same place. He was good, though, all those years ago. Have I seen Jeff Dunham? Not in person, but when he has specials on Netflix and such, I watch him. I think he just had a new special called Me, the People. Yeah, I like Jeff Dunham. He's been around a very long time. Patrick Rizzo says, when I go out to eat, I want to be served, not a buffet. I'm just too picky of an eater. I pay money for a buffet and eat half of what I paid for because I won't eat half of it. I'm not interested. Lou Greeny says, I treated myself to a week's vacation in the deer stand. Heaven, so peaceful. You talking about a deer blind? You went hunting? What's a deer stand? A deer blind? I don't know what a deer stand is. Of course, Terry Fader is very big in Vegas for ventriloquism. Okay, guys. Yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today on this rare Saturday broadcast, just for me to finally get these keyboards out of their boxes and show them off. Next, I got to make some YouTube, some Amazon videos for these. These are just a plant a seed for you. Holiday season's coming up. Maybe you're looking for something unique for somebody or for yourself to treat yourself to something a little luxurious, an unnecessary, what would we call it, treat for yourself. A little splurge. Might be something up your alley. Maybe not. And there's a lot more to choose from than just these samples, but at least you know you can look for typewriter style keyboards, and you'll see a variety of them at places like Amazon. I have links for these keyboards in the video notes as usual. If you make a purchase using my links that take you to Amazon, I make a small commission. It's a great way to anonymously support the show. Even if you don't buy the keyboard, but you're taken to Amazon by my link, and then you're on Amazon, you buy something entirely different, maybe you buy a can of beans, I still make a little tiny commission off of that. So it's a great way to support the channel anonymously. Thanks to the people who have contributed during today's show, not only financially, but with your participation in interacting. You know, special thanks and shout out to our good friend Oystein in Norway. Appreciate not only the financial contribution, but appreciate the questions that are asked and wonderful demonstrations. To our new members, thank you for signing up and becoming members of the Tech Club. to John Swisher, Chris Johnson, Essential Working Too Hard, Bob R, CCTV user, Mark Gaines, Planet Cryos, Xrod666, Larry Wood. Thank you guys for your contributions. Mark Gaines, if you're watching and you want me to look into the reason why you couldn't chat in the members only video, reach out to me in an email so we can see if we can't sort through that together, try and get this figured out. And everyone else, thank you so much for participating, for watching. And I should be back with more content on Monday. I'm going to try and take tomorrow off. I'm going to try. Thanks, guys. I'll see you all very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.